You've probably heard this line before. Before the invention of the light bulb, people slept one deep, unbroken 8-hour sleep every single night. And then, Edison and electricity ruined everything. Sounds logical. There's just one problem. It's probably not true. And here's the really interesting part. Scientists are still arguing about how our ancestors actually slept. Today, we'll look at both sides of that argument, and it turns out the truth is far stranger and more flexible than you'd expect. When did humanity start sleeping in one solid block instead of in fragments, the way most animals in nature do? That question still isn't fully settled, and that alone is pretty remarkable. Let's start with the version that made the most noise. Historian Roger Ekirch spent years digging through pre-industrial European documents, medical texts, court records, personal diaries, letters, and he found a recurring pattern. People kept mentioning not one, but two periods of sleep each night. A so-called first sleep, starting at nightfall and lasting until roughly midnight. Then a period of being awake, an hour or two, which people filled however they liked. Praying, talking with their spouse, discussing dreams, having sex, sometimes even visiting neighbors. And then a second sleep, lasting until dawn. Ekirch even found references to this pattern in much older texts, including Homer's Odyssey, which is almost 3,000 years old. This led many researchers to describe segmented sleep as a natural human biological rhythm, one that civilization gradually erased, first with street lighting, then electricity, then the industrial work schedule. Sounds compelling, but there's a problem. If segmented sleep really is our true, natural, wild rhythm, we have a great way to test that. Look at how people who still live without electricity actually sleep. And this is where it gets interesting. A group of researchers, including anthropologist Jerome Siegel, studied sleep across 3 traditional societies with no access to electricity: the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in the Kalahari Desert, and the Tsimane in the Bolivian rainforest. The result was unexpected. There was no two-part sleep pattern at all. People in these communities slept in one continuous block, going to bed several hours after sunset and waking up before dawn. And notably, on average, they slept even less than the average person living in a modern city today, about 6.5 hours a night. So the picture of ancient humans slept long and deep, and we, corrupted by technology, suffer from sleep deprivation, turns out to be a myth. If anything, it looks like the opposite might be true. So who's right? Ekirch with his historical texts, or the anthropologists with their observations of living traditional societies? Most likely, both are. They're just describing different things. There's a strong argument that the segmented sleep Ekirch found in European sources was a local feature specific to medieval and early modern Europe, rather than a universal rule for all of humanity throughout history. Researchers point out that the same pattern doesn't show up today in traditional communities living near the equator, meaning it may not have existed at all before humans migrated into Western Europe with its long, dark winter nights. But there's another layer to this story that rarely gets discussed. Those brief nighttime awakenings, the ones we now treat as a sleep disorder and try to fix with pills, may have originally been a feature, not a bug. It's called the sentinel hypothesis. The idea is simple. Sleep is a vulnerable state. While you're asleep, you could be attacked by a predator or by hostile neighbors. For a group sleeping together, it was evolutionarily useful to always have at least one person not fully asleep, someone lightly alert, acting as a lookout. Studies of sleep among modern Hadza hunter-gatherers support this. Moments where every single member of the group is deeply asleep at the same time are extremely rare. Someone is always in a slightly lighter stage of sleep than the rest, which means our restless, fragmented sleep, the kind we now worry about and treat with melatonin, might not be a malfunction at all. It might be a very ancient collective security system. Here's another detail that the industrial world has completely erased. Our ancestors' sleep changed with the seasons. Research on the Hadza found that in summer, people slept roughly 55 minutes less per day than in winter. Day length directly dictated how much time the body spent asleep. Today, our sleep schedule barely changes from season to season. An alarm clock goes off at the same time in June as it does in December. For most of human history, that simply didn't exist. And there's one more unexpected factor: the phase of the moon. Research on the Hadza found a statistical link between the lunar cycle and sleep patterns. On nights closer to a full moon, when there was more natural light available, people fell asleep later and slept somewhat less. This is the first direct evidence that moonlight, unlike electric light, doesn't destroy sleep entirely. It just gently shifts it, folding into a natural rhythm. Today, with our bedrooms flooded by artificial light regardless of the moon's phase, that subtle connection to the sky has simply stopped existing. So where does that leave us? It might seem like we're searching for one correct answer. Did people sleep in 1 block or 2, 7 hours or 9? But maybe the question itself is the wrong one. It looks like there was never a single, correct ancient sleep pattern. Sleep was never a fixed template. It was a flexible, adaptive system, one that adjusted to the season, to latitude, to the level of danger nearby, to available light. Sleep looked different for the Tsimane in the rainforest than for the San in the desert, and different again for people in medieval England with their long winter nights. The one thing that really did change dramatically isn't the biology of sleep, it's our environment. We're the first generation in the history of our species to sleep in a fully controlled setting. With artificial light we can switch on at any moment, the same schedule regardless of season. Complete physical safety with no need for a lookout. So next time you wake up in the middle of the night and lie there for an hour or two before falling back asleep, maybe don't assume something's broken. It might just be an echo of a very old, very flexible system, one that worked for us for hundreds of thousands of years, long before anyone ever decided that sleep was supposed to come in one single, unbroken piece. If you enjoyed this journey into the history of human sleep, subscribe. There are many more topics like this coming. And let me know in the comments, which human habit should I dig into next?